Welcome back. You're watching Business Morning on Channels Television. Our focus is now on the construction sector. We'll be talking about how the sector fared in 2014 and, of course, expectations for 2015. I'm being joined on the program by the Chief Executive Officer of Concrete Engineering Limited, Okpeyemi Aminu. Mr. Aminu, good morning and thank you so much for coming in.
Good morning. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. Now, let's talk about 2014 for the construction and building sector. Looking back, were there good, bad, or ugly times for the industry, or was it a mixture of all three?
Well, 2014 was quite eventful. You know, it was good, it was ugly, and of course, it's like that at times. When you look at the figures available to you, you look at the growth within the industry. In the first quarter, we had about 8.8% growth. And in the second quarter, we have about 12.3. Then in the third quarter, it came down to 15.4. Came down by 15.4. What it means is that it was the beginning of the ugly situation. And in the last quarter, it came down by about 12.3. So, of course, you are not going to disconnect that completely from what was happening within the economy as a whole. You've just talked about the oil prices, and we're expecting that it's going to affect all industries, including construction industry. And, of course, as you know, when the economy sneezes, the first industry that catches the cold is the construction industry, and that was what we had. But again, we had some very good situations, very good moves. I'm going to look at the building collapse, for instance, and the directives of SON about the use of cement, the grade of cement that should be applied to different aspects of the project. I'm going to say that was a good move within the industry. Yes, there were arguments here and there. There were arguments about, look, the cause of building collapse is not the cement. It is about the application, the design, the application, and supervision. Yes, they are right. Again,
for last year, did we see a better supervision of the industry or regulation of the industry, as the case may be?
Okay, when you look at the cement itself, the purpose of the cement within the scheme of things, that is within construction, it's a very major component of construction. It is a binder within, concrete batching process. And like we know, two major things are very relevant to structures of building. For instance, you have the concrete, you have the reinforcement. If you have problem with either of the two, of course, it gives the building the problem. Now, coming to the effect of cement within the scheme of things, let's look at the peculiarity of our environment. Let's look at the application process. If you take concrete, for an instance, it is majorly processed by, let me use the language, I'll say the artisans, but you can say the quacks, because they don't have the relevant scientific knowledge of what should be put together for you to have very good concrete.
Okay, now let's look at the industry still. We've talked about some of the materials, the cement and the rest of it, but how strong were the regulators in terms of performing their oversight functions in 2014?
Well, I'll say that we witnessed a lot of improvement in that with the involvement of SON and the activities of COREN in the recent time. I would say that the supervision is improved better than what we had. Koren is stepped in, NSE is stepped in. You know, when you go for meeting, for an instance, a lot of these things were being discussed, and the way the industries could be moved forward, you know, became a major focus of Koren and NSE, for an instance. And what we have is an improvement in the way things were being done.
But then, you know, at the end of the year, the last quarter of the year, operators were advocating for the passage of local content bill for the industry. And it seems that bill hasn't really been passed. But how would the passage of this bill actually affect the industry?
Well, it's going to have a lot of positive impact on the industry. What we're saying in here is that the bill is about improving the way we do things and let it be done more by our people who are qualified and competent at doing this thing. So when it passes, of course, you're going to have more involvement of professionals in the way things are done. You know, it's not just going to be left to everybody to do it the way we were doing it.
But you see, still most of the professionals in the industry, at least here in Nigeria, still prefer to go outside because they feel going outside of the country will give them more money. So is the environment now more conducive for this local content bill, if passed, to encourage our engineers, our professionals in the industry to stay instead of having capital flight?
Well, you see, the first question is, why do they move out? They move out because they are seeking greener pastures. If the greener pastures are here, I'm very sure they will not be willing to go. And that is what the bill is about to tackle. It's good, better to stay in here than going there. Because when you get out there, you're a second citizen. But when you are here, you are the first citizen. You will be recognized as such, as a professional that you are, and you are able to express yourself in the best way possible.
No, before that bill becomes, before that bill is passed, yes, what is the industry doing, as in operators in the industry, what are they doing to ensure that, they stay relevant in terms of encouraging domestic participation in the industry?
Well, you see, like I told you, I've told you about the activities of NSE, and I equally mentioned the activities of Koren. The two bodies are doing a lot to ensure that the relevant professionals have access to the jobs, to the work that are available, so as to develop ourselves, so as to be able to, in most cases, when you look at what the job, the contracts that are given to foreigners, the question that comes to your mind is, do they bring people, their people, to execute this job? In most cases, the jobs are being done by Nigeria. What they have done is probably to supervise, in most cases. And when you look at the hierarchy of supervision, who are the people that you're going to see in there? Mostly, they are the Nigerians. Now, again, we can talk about a lot of projects that Nigerians have single-handedly handled, and they are they are comparable to what their counterparts, expatriates have done.
Okay, so let's talk about another project that was quite interesting for 2014. That was the launch of the Nigerian Mortgage Refinance Company to help invigorate the sector and reduce housing deficits in the country. Did it make the desired impact? Because I remember it was launched in January of 2014. So did it make the desired impact?
My answer is yes. It does, and it's going to do that. Of course, everywhere in the world, before you assess finance, there are laid down procedures that you have to go through. And that is exactly the same thing that we have here. Though our environment is peculiar, and the peculiarity is in the procedures that you go through to get those finances. Yes, But again, it is better than none, because a lot of operators are tapping into it. They are getting the finance to come up with some of the estates that you have around now. For instance, we were involved in a project, along Ajasis, and the promoter of the project was able to assess, the mortgage fund to finance the estate. It is a positive development. Once you can meet the criteria set by the institution, I think that you'll be able to assess it, and it is good for the industry.
So it was a good start for the industry when they didn't have the kind of realities that we're having now on ground in terms of dropping oil prices, the devaluation of the naira. So we have domestic and international economic challenges that we're having to face for 2015. So what are your expectations for the industry based on these realities that we have at the moment?
Well, you see, whichever way you look at it, it will affect the entire industry. Otherwise, or except that we have good fiscal policy in place that will probably restructure the way things are done so as to have more money into the economy, then that is when, of course, the industry like construction can benefit. But if you look at it from the face value, the government, for an instance, I take Lagos State for an instance, they don't have less than 200 projects going on at a time. And it's simply because they have the fund to pursue it. If the fund is not there, what it means is probably the project will reduce to 100 or 150. And when that happens, who are the people that suffer? They are the operator within the industry. That's when you're going to have more people on the street because there are no jobs to do. So looking at it all together, we are looking, we are happy by some few steps taken by the CBN, for instance, to sort of stem the foreign exchange market. It was going down so fastly, but it's been a little bit stabilized now. The effect of that is on the materials. Majority of the materials come from, they are imported into Nigeria. So when you can get those materials at not too exorbitant a cost, what it means is that you've been able to save money, which could go on another project.
Which also means that the drop that the industry began to see in the last quarter or in the third quarter of last year might continue. The contribution, that means the drop in the contribution of the industry to the nation's economy, for instance. Will it continue this year?
Yes, it will continue. I'm saying that because when you look at the fiscal framework of federal government, we have not seen anything drastic that is being done to sort of ameliorate the negative effect of the drop in their revenue. We have not seen that. Once we can't see that, what it means is that you're going to have shortage of fund for government, field work outside there for within the industry, and we will continue to have the drop. But again, this is a new year, if we are lucky, I'll say that if we are lucky to see the government, this is a problem and it has to be attacked head on. Otherwise, we will continue to see the slide that we have witnessed at the third and last quarter of last year.
Mr. Aminu, thank you so much for joining me on the program and sharing your thoughts with us as well.
Thank you very much.
I've been speaking with Opeyemi Aminu. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Concrete Engineering Limited, and we've been reviewing the construction industry in 2014, construction and housing industry in 2014, and looking at expectations for 2015. Business Morning continues in just a moment. Please join me again.